Ready.
Okay, so the time is 5:39. We'll call the meeting to order. Start with adoption of the agenda for the governance and priority meeting, March 3rd, 2022. Any additions? Anything we need to know about on the agenda?
Not from administration, your worship.
Okay, motion to adopt?
Yeah, motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think I heard Councilor Williams. Jeremy? Nikita, can you just give me I can't see them or hear them, so I don't know if they voted. I mean, it's passed, so we'll deal with that as we come, but. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is item 3.1, so minutes from the last meeting. Any errors or omissions on that? No? I'll accept the motion to.
I'll move that
Okay.
minutes of the February 3rd, 2022 meeting be accepted as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Williams.
In favor.
Okay, and I heard Councilor Wilhelm. All right, that brings us to Whitecourt Arts, Culture Center and Library Project. So has everyone had a chance to review our emails on this?
Review our emails?
Well, the mails that were attached, the letters that were attached.
Oh, those two letters, yeah.
And the feedback mechanism and how do we go about this? And let's see here, Nikita, you had questions. I don't have them here on the package though.
Gee whiz.
They're there.
And your worship and rest of councils, the documentation from administration was just suggestions and ideas to help with the process, not necessarily our recommendations.
Yep. Okay, so what's our mechanism for feedback? Are we doing this as a like a forum that's linked through the website, SurveyMonkey? How do we end up getting some accurate feedback on this?
So-
Go ahead.
So just to clarify, are you talking about a response to those two messages received by email, one by Ms. St. Martin and the other gentleman, or are you talking about a survey tool?
Survey tool.
Okay. Yeah, well, I share the question. I think the biggest thing for me is security, but you sound like you have a plan, or you look like you have a plan.
So worship and rest of council, there is a full plan of community engagement strategy and some ideas coming to council on the March 17th meeting. With the activity in the community on this particular topic, it was suggested to administration that we, if not start something sooner, at least get the process going, so we have. In the past, we have used, I believe it is SurveyMonkey. There was a subscription for an online survey format that was secured by our communications officer who's currently away on approved leave. So we will have all of those things taken care of. We also contract our IT to an external service, and they have all the licenses and registration and the security mechanisms in place to give us some assurance that whatever we do is going to have that level of security that council's looking for. So the exact name of the software, I don't have it for you right now. There might be some additional Work that communications needs to do to ensure we're picking the right item. And it will be dependent on the entire communication or engagement strategy that comes forward as well. We don't want to duplicate software, so.
Can I just ask you a clarifying question then? So one of the questions that I've been thinking about, and I know Reed Burrows brought it up when I initially brought this discussion forward about a month ago, and that was, how do we know that there isn't one person that's completing the survey 1,000 times, or how do we know that they're actually county residents? Is there a login procedure? What would happen?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, we also have had that same conversation, and we do have the opportunity to request a blue sign number or something, but then you tend to possibly not get the same responses because people are wanting to submit anonymously, or they like the fact that they're doing an online survey. So those types of questions and answers will be more appropriately at the presentation when you get the engagement strategy with from communications on that topic. So perhaps in light of those questions, where our focus this evening should be to create the survey and have it ready to roll out, and then at the time council receives the engagement package from communications at the March 17th meeting, that we have more answers to those questions.
Makes sense.
Okay, Councilor Prestige.
If we're doing a survey for the county with the county residents, it shouldn't be anonymous. We are surveying county residents. So if they want to put their name on, they should be putting their name or their address or blue sign, whatever.
Through the chair to Councilor Prestige, we can certainly ask for that. I believe the last survey that we did online had an opportunity to do that, but it wasn't restricted, so we didn't prevent anyone who didn't want to provide that information from filling out the survey. The current education campaign that's going on with the town on this particular topic, you can go onto their website and you can do the survey as a county resident, one way or the other. So at this point in time, I don't have the exact answer on making the survey county exclusive only, but we can definitely do some looking into that.
I think it should be county only because we're doing this for county residents, not
Yeah,
non-residents.
Councilor Cush, then Councilor Cogan.
Yeah, just kind of piggyback off of what you just said there. Yeah, like the reality is the survey and the effects of this, if it comes down on like the county paying for this or going through with this, the effects of this are our residents and what we have to pay. So it would be nice to have some type of mechanism put in there so that we can assure that our residents, that the people who are responding to this are actually residents of the county and these are their concerns being heard, not from outside of our municipality, with other opinions or stuff. It's just, we're the, they're the ones paying for it, so.
Okay, Councilor Cogan.
I guess the question for me would be as well is how do we go about wording this so that it doesn't look like we're doing this in a negative way to get the information that we want to say no. I think we have to be careful. I think it would serve a purpose for us to say, there's a possibility that we would be on the hook for some of this. You can't say it like that, but because at the end of the day, that's the answer we're trying to get is that if we're going to be responsible for some of the costs, then we want our residents to know that there's going to be a substantial impact to them. So how do we word that? How do we get that? How do we create that document?
Through the chairs to Councilor Culkin, The former or prior survey that was done on essentially, I believe the main focus on that was spending of taxation. We did ask how long they had lived in the county, and then there was also a box to check that they did not live in the county. And then we also asked the own and the rent question. But those are definitely good thoughts, and communications is happy to be here this evening to hear the concerns and the suggestions from council firsthand, so the product that we do produce is exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to Counselor Williams. He had his hand up, but he's taking it down.
I was just going to add to what Councillor Prestridge and Kush said. I agree that we should make it, I don't know if mandatory is the right word, but highly encouraged to add in an address. Maybe not a name, but it kind of controls that we're not getting false ones and just a box that you check whether you are in the county or not. I think that there's some room there for numbers to be manipulated if we don't. So I agree with them.
Yeah. Counselor Dean?
And so do I. I just want to come back to what Alicia had said earlier, that, those mechanics, they're going to come back to us in the report. And I think there's consensus here that we want some kind of verification key tool, whatever it is. But coming back to the question that we're asking, so I want to respond to Councillor Colkin. In my opinion, what we're looking for is whether or not our residents are in favor of this, and we need to show them what the cost implication is. I don't think we need to be concerned with a stance that we may take or may not take. This is going to tell us what to do. And so I don't mean to oversimplify this, but the financial data that was presented to us yesterday, that's what the residents need to know, right? And so I think if we can provide good financial data that allows the resident to have an understanding of how it's going to impact the pocketbook, then some of the questions that I see there that came from Nikita make a lot of sense. To me, it's, are you in favor of the project or are you not in favor of the project? Would you use it? Have you seen any other of the presentations? That's not as important to me as, are you in favor or are you not in favor? Here's the financial cost to you. You want to do it or do you not want to do it? So those are my thoughts. I think we need to clean up that financial data. It just make it even more simple than it is. Like basically 10-year, 20-year, 25-year, and use that those same the values, the assessment values. Those were the same as that came from the town presentation. So again, I don't mean to oversimplify it, guys, but to me, that's what it's all about, is how much it's going to cost.
Okay. All right, well, seeing, this to me seems more and more like we need to do an info session ourselves, like at the Westward or something like that, and actually physically have a presentation from the county on our current fiscal position and current information, and have that conversation with residents. How that sharing is going to affect everybody, and how these costs are going to drive forward. And maybe we can do that all at the same time as and that's, I'm not sure, but I think that it would be fair if the decisions about this to invite the presentation on the center as well. So you put it all together. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's I might not have explained or articulated it well enough a month ago, but that's exactly what I was asking for, is to piggyback on them. And so theirs is done, but they've made the offer to go to various places in our county. And I think it's important that that is shared with people that haven't seen it. And I think a lot of the folks around here may have seen it, but could we even stream it? Could we do it here? And broadcast it out to the county instead of going out to a number of places? Could we just have one shebang type of thing?
Well, the presentation was streamed here, their presentation was streamed here, so we'd have to, do we have any policy on marrying a couple of, excerpting that presentation and then adding it to ours and streaming that out, or do we have to put it all together in one room, or?
Through your worship and members of council, I would be wanting to defer some of that to the engagement strategies that come forward from communications on the 17th. That's what they have been asked to do, is come up with a plan, and it's my understanding included with that plan would be ready to roll out for these types of events, and it would be pick which you're wanting to move forward with. We can also have them thinking about it. If it was me and my data and my presentation, I wouldn't want to be giving that to somebody else to present on my behalf, because I would be a subject expert for that. So I don't know if that ask, if I'm understanding correctly, is we want to take their presentation and run it?
No.
No.
They're offering to come and make the presentation, and then we could piggyback on that with our presentation, is what I had in my mind. Sorry.
Yeah. Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, and I guess really, I agree with what you're saying, Alan. And just, moving forward, like one of the suggestions that you'd made earlier was to have a presentation on exactly where all our tax dollars go. And I would suggest that would, percentage-wise, what we have left with to work with at the end of the day after all the requisitions and stuff like that would be beneficial for us to present at something like that as well, because then it lays it out really well. Would that be possible, Alicia? Just
Through the chair to council, yes, we could definitely expand it so it was more of an information session. And not to, just as a reminder on the data that was presented, there's a significant difference between that collected from residents and that collected from industry. So perhaps that's another avenue that we need to be considerate of as well for getting that information out.
Councillor Kusch?
A couple of quick points. First one, if we were to do an information campaign, like kind of whether we're presenting and we're whatever, I would recommend that we do it in person, just given the restrictions to a lot of rural internet and bandwidth. I mean, I do know that you can get further scope of people, like running it out. If you have Essential, you broadcast it, but a lot of people are really restricted on what their internet will actually support.
Sure.
And especially if they have questions or comments to bring in, it would be better to, even if we did want to say to Westford and one at Blue Ridge is at least closer for the people in the Goose Lake area and stuff to why, or the Ensemble Zone to kind of come in, it's a little more centralized. My other question though, before we kind of hop the gun and start getting, this stuff all up and rolling, and all the ad hoc committee said that they came to the end of their campaign they were doing. Is this something where we're gonna set this up and get going in say a month or 2 months? Like, is the town already gonna be in a position where they're gonna have their decisions made and everything going before we get into this? Like, if they have their end finalized and going and we're just getting to the presentation part, we're a little bit behind the gun, and it's kind of, a new point of that.
Councillor Dean?
So what do you guys envision as a timeline? Like Alicia's saying that our next council meeting, we're going to be presented with some options in terms of a survey tool. That would happen after these information sessions, right? So we want to provide the education to the public, just like the ad hoc committee did, and then we're asking our residents to tell us whether they're in support. Is that not the chronology? So they're two separate things. And so what's the timeline you guys
That's kind of what I'm
envision.
wondering. It's,
Yeah.
our timeline needs to also coincide with the timeline of what's going on with the project and stuff too, because our timeline is way behind where they're at.
Yeah, and
It's,
maybe we need to reach out to that side and find out.
I'm just gonna recognize Counselor Wilhelm. Counselor Wilhelm, go ahead.
Hey guys, I just want to make a quick comment with regards to timeframes. If we can get this engagement tool as well, it might kind of piggyback the two together, right? Where we can actually have them perform the survey while they're on site after we've done our presentation. And that might do two things. One, we're going to kind of know who's there and doing the survey, but people might actually come to the presentation as well so that they can voice their thoughts on the survey, so they can kind of handhold each other and have a little bit more success. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My internet's really bad.
No, we can hear you perfectly.
Internet's really bad. That's so common.
Counselor Prestige.
If we're gonna do this, and have the ad hoc committee there, we should also, because I think there's a couple groups that are against it, they should be able to come and voice their opinion too.
Oh, boy.
I think we should
I
leave it
don't agree with
localized to county residents. Please, I mean, this is a county decision, it should be county residents.
Counselor,
If I can respond to that respectfully, Bruce, in my mind, what I see us doing is providing education and then asking for the voice. It's not a debate. We're not moderating two sides going back and forth. We're just presenting information and then asking for their opinion. I don't want to be part of that at all.
yeah, and from what I understand, some of them have been fairly lively already, so. I can actually see that, so, marrying the presentation from the county on what our current situation is and what the impacts to residents would be in the event that we went ahead with that, level of support that they're. And this is the really frustrating part that I'm having with this. So, they came and did a presentation. In their presentation, they say other municipal partners, $7.1 million. There aren't any. Haven't asked anyone. We don't know what the timeline of when they're gonna build this thing, or how they're gonna pull the trigger on it, or how they're gonna, this is really screwy, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
That's why this is so frustrating to me. And based on what we saw, with the ICF legislation, if it gets built, we're gonna be paying for it anyways. So we need to have a conversation with everybody, but we have no idea what the asks are. That's the hard part.
No, what we were provided with yesterday is kind of, I don't like to use this term, but almost worst case scenario.
How do you mean worse?
The full
Well, you're
ask.
talking about the financials that we looked at, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the presentation from the ad hoc committee. Like, there's no official ask.
right, yeah.
So, and this is what's difficult. But in their presentation, it says 7.1 and other municipal partners.
Mhm.
Well, if you read the paper, the other municipal partners that were mentioned were Greenview and Yellowhead.
Yeah,
But according to Yellowhead, they've never heard of it.
mhm.
So I'm confused. Counselor Cush.
And back to the topic where we're talking about the survey here, the papers that were given to us, I do like the questions that are on there. They are big. Yeah, I know we have 3 on here. We have 4 on the page that administration drafted, and then plus a couple spots for comments or whatnot. But I mean, the part as far as have you attended or watched the presentation, if we're going to be offering this at a presentation, I don't think we need to include that part, and then we can just kind of go after it. But I do like the questions that are on here. I know they asked for 3. We have, with that one out, would be 3 questions and a couple spots for comments, and I feel that's actually a position to go. It's not our stance on anything, you know, or like you said, for or against. It's very much resident driven as to whether they're for it or against it, or for or against the tax increases. So that's kind of, I like this format, and I feel that, you know, minus the one question about have you attempted to watch the presentation, I mean, whether they have or not, they're just still gonna have their opinions, and they're gonna know their financials, and at least, you know, seen everything else in media about it, so. I don't know if that's a point that we really need to put on there, but the other ones I do like.
Councillor Kuchen.
Yeah, I guess that brings up a whole new, the comment you made, like, we don't have an ask, so, until we have an ask, are we ahead of the, you know, are we doing something here we shouldn't be doing? And I'm thinking that that's probably the case. I mean, we could have everything prepared for that, but I would think that we should just not get too excited until the question is asked. Is that?
I agree
that would be
100%.
my-
Because
I really think that's key for me.
Councillor,
Yeah, just kind of, to Councillor Coogan, I know that there hasn't been an ask, but he said in the presentation, it's asking for 7.1 million. And what we have presented to us from administration, like Councillor Dean said, it's basically worst case. If they come to us for the full 7.1, and we can at least, you know, we can explain that to the residents. Maybe this is, you know, it could be from here and then, you know, go down depending on what the financials come in. But I'd rather have something prepared
Yeah.
at the high end of it than not have something prepared enough to, you know, if you tell the residents it's gonna be A and it comes out to be B and B's bigger, they usually have an issue with that versus going the other way around if they're okay with it to start with.
Councillor Dean.
Yeah, and just to follow on that, I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, right? I mentioned yesterday that we didn't have an ask, and I didn't think we needed to be in a hurry to get this developed. But that being said, the ask could come at any time. So, you know, time is of the essence to at least have a format. We've got a presentation coming back. We're happy with these questions. We like the financial information that was provided. So I think that should be enough direction for administration to come back with a format that we can toss around.
Sure.
And then we wait is my thoughts.
So I'll come at this another way. So based on what we've seen out of the ICF legislation and arbitration and all the rest of it, let's say there's no ask. The operational costs of something like this will be substantial. I'm thinking it. I think what's the Miller Center? Somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5 million a year
Correct.
in net
The deficit
net
you're talking
loss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you put a $60 million facility together, and I'm thinking those numbers are probably going to be around 900,000, something like that, in a net deficit position. I know those aren't the numbers they published, but the numbers they published for the Allen and Jean Miller Center were inaccurate when they first came up with the Allen and Jean Miller Center as well. So and I think it's, especially right now with everything that we're seeing, I mean, the supply chain issues are absolutely insane right now. The rate of inflation, the way things are going, it's a real, there's a lot of question marks. So let's say they don't ask and it gets built anyways. Our residents will be paying for this in 4 years when it's built. Ask or not. Does council agree with that?
Well, can I make a motion to go into camera?
You gotta have a FOIP for like, why?
I want to discuss a legal matter.
Okay,
Section 27,
say again, 27?
27,
So that'd be FOIP 27?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we're in camera
No,
now.
motion to go into closed session
So
on
I-
FOIP
yeah.
27, legal matter.
So I move that we go into closed session on FOIP 27.
Okay. All in favor? Any opposed?